as you guys come in, you can let me know if the volume is okay before I start going on full blast here. So yeah, I guess I'll have to wait for a few seconds for you to detect that, but let me know because I don't have a separate mic here. The mic is coming from the computer, so it's probably not a good sound. Anyway, if you can understand me, we will proceed. So anyway, nobody's making any comment yet. So I don't know if we're actually transmitting at the moment. So, okay. I see comments in here. So anyway, the topic tonight is going to be about Threads versus Twitter. Audio fine, thank you. So Threads is something new. It just came out last week, I guess. And basically, it's a Twitter clone, Twitter-like interface. Obviously, I don't have it because, for reasons I'll explain in a moment. But yes, I don't have Threads, and I have Twitter. I was angry at Twitter last week, so we'll talk about that too. So Twitter was kind of a pain, and yeah, we'll talk about all the the good news and the bad news. So yeah, so I have been using Twitter. I've been on Twitter for a long time. I've been on Twitter since I think 2013 when Periscope started, because when you needed to use the Periscope app, you needed to set up a Twitter account. I think it happened after 20. Yeah, it didn't happen at the beginning, but Twitter bought Periscope, and then Twitter then required that you set up a Twitter account to use Periscope. So that's why I had a Twitter account. I didn't really use it much then. I was using it for mostly for Periscope. Periscope with the live streaming. So Mamagu says sound bad. Well, I just said that. So maybe you could tell me what bad means, because I don't have any. Don't have any options for you. I'm using the microphone of the computer. So as you can see, I'm not in my usual place, and I don't have a mic that I can plug in, because this was kind of an emergency. So yeah, the sound is whatever the sound is. I don't know what it's like because it's coming from the computer. Presume the sound of the computer is not perfect, but yeah. So anyway, if you can understand me, then we'll proceed. But as I said, the sound isn't going to be good. Okay. No, I just said I'm not home. No. Okay, I'm going to be repeating this over and over, so I'm not going to respond to any more sound comments because obviously there's a problem, but I can't fix it. So let me just explain my issue here. My issue is that I'm not at home because there is no zucking power. There has been no zucking power all day. So there was no power, so I could not plan on broadcasting because there was no power. So I had to set up a studio here in kind of a rush, and just so I can go on live here. So this is not the proper setup for it, and it looks like I forgot to bring a USB mic, which is needed for this setup. I don't have a USB mic here. So yeah, so that's going to be the limiting factor. Anyway, so yeah, that's it for sound. So if somebody asks about sound, you guys can explain it. So anyway, the Twitter, for example, last a week ago, or over a week ago now, had blocked my VPN, and I don't mean just any VPN, my own VPN service. In fact, many of you were affected. Many of you on Twitter and using my VPN could not get into Twitter. I was kind of upset, so I posted something on Twitter saying, "What the zuck is going on here? Why is there a block on Twitter?" So I started to have doubts about Musk because if if we want some privacy, one of the things about Twitter that's actually been a plus is that I don't have to identify myself on Twitter. I haven't supplied any personal information on Twitter. I've given it a unique email address. I have not given a phone number, and yeah, so far it's not been an issue, and so it doesn't. Twitter doesn't push anything. And so I'm very happy with the fact that as far as identity is concerned, at least it's not forcing me to reveal identities. So the good news is I can use a VPN in the past with Twitter and I would have a safe experience. So if any of you think that is there a platform that you can use that could be safe if you do not use your real name, and I make that distinction, if you don't use your real name. If you have such a setup where you're not using your real name, yes, Twitter was an excellent choice. Now, lately, because of the blocking of the VPNs, that really got me upset. But Twitter unblocked the VPN. Do we need to block you, KZ1994 Rebel? Do we need to block you? Okay, so anyway, as it turns out, they didn't block every VPN. They blocked specifically Linode. So they blocked everything on Linode. So I'm guessing that somebody attacked Twitter from Linode and they just did a global block. So okay, so then they undid whatever they did. They unblocked the Linode. They unblocked Linode. So everything has been fine since. So anyway, it's been okay now with Twitter. The problem is that Elon Musk has knee-jerk reactions. He reacts very fast and just does something, perhaps not thinking about it too much. But what I found about Elon is at least he's fairly reasonable, and if you bring it up, so somebody must have seen the tweet because somebody fixed it. So the unblocking occurred. So I said, okay, so he's not perfect. Twitter is not perfect. I can tell you right now, it is not perfect. But compared to the old days, that was such a terrible experience back in the old days because I could see people getting censored left and right on Twitter. I mean, it was so obvious. And I don't mean when I say left and right, I actually mean left and right. People were getting blocked on Twitter, primarily by that VJ. What's her name again? I forget her name, but she should disappear. So yeah, I mean that woman was like hardcore a censor. I mean, truly, she lied. She went on Joe Rogan show and said, "Oh yeah, sunlight bleaches truth," or something like that, and so that we don't need to censor. Truth will win, and yet they were acting. Is it Vijaya or Vijay? I forgot. Anyway, so compared to the experience with Twitter in the past, I've been happy to say that I don't feel nervous about posting on Twitter, and I don't expect to be censored, especially since I'm very much anti big tech, and the big tech people will block me at every chance and attack me, and I'm attacked everywhere. Some of the attackers could be people working for those big tech companies, and they really want to hurt me because, of course, I'm affecting them by talking badly, as I am now talking about Twitter. I'm not. I think that my experience with Twitter has been positive. I am on Twitter. My Twitter account is Rob Braxman Tech on Twitter, and you can safely follow me there. And the more of you go there, the more I'll be inspired to be posting more regularly. I actually post all my videos in there now. Anyway, what is interesting is that uh, our good friend Zuck, for those of you who don't know, I started the word "what the Zuck." It's on Urban Dictionary. It's been what 10 years ago now when I said Zuck this, Zuck that, and now even Musk is calling him Zuck. So yeah, Zuck Zuck. So anyway, Zuck said, "Oh, I'm going to make my own version of Twitter." So he did. He came up with Threads. So Threads is out there, and then everyone was boasting because what is it? Twitter has 330 million daily users, and all of a sudden, uh, Threads, a newbie, just in a few days got so many millions. I forget how many millions, but maybe 10% of the the traffic from Twitter itself, all in a matter of a few days. So everyone was saying, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be the new Twitter. Twitter's going to lose, and Musk is going to lose after paying 44 billion for Twitter, and all the Zuck has to do is copy it, and he's so successful because he got so many millions of users into Threads in an instant. So if you haven't heard Threads, Threads is the Twitter um, clone. So now I'm not surprised that 10 million, 30 million, I don't know how many billions of people went into Threads. That shouldn't be a surprise when your platform, meaning Zucking Zuckbook and Zucking Zinstagram, has what, a billion people on there. They have a billion people subscribed to Zucking Zuckbook. So if you put a click on there, it says, here, click here, and you'll be on Threads. I mean, come on. That shouldn't be too difficult to do, right? So, although, it makes you wonder why, if you're already on Instagram, why do you need to be on Threads? So anyway, everyone, said, okay, it's bad news for Zuck for Musk, and gives more reason for the cage fight between Musk and Zuckerberg, and because now Musk gets really angry because uh, he copied Twitter. So anyway, if you are a big fan of Threads, anybody here on Threads? I presume nobody here is on Thread. No one who follows me would think of it, but maybe not. Anyone on the live stream that's been on Threads? Maybe you want to just check it out. I'll wait a second here, but yeah. Anybody on Threads? So in any case, the the reality is, if you go into any meta platform, any, forgetting about Threads for a moment, you tried it. Forgetting about Threads for a moment, but just simply talking about being on a meta platform, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, VR, or Threads, if you started to do that, then I'm going to tell you that I can't help you on the privacy side. You might as well quit now. You don't have to follow my channel because there's nothing I can do for you. There really isn't anything I can do for you, and I already told you in my last video why. Okay, that's just one piece. That's just one piece. So let me just summarize it for you in case you missed that. So Instagram and basically any meta platform collects contact lists. So every user, meaning every friend of yours, not you, your friends. In fact, any acquaintance, anyone with your phone number, anyone with your email. So those two things. If there's anyone in the world with your phone number or email, they have uploaded it. They have uploaded it to Meta. All of you. So Yeah, I gave the example in my video where I used basically a new email account. I've never used it before, I thought, and I used it on Facebook. And then later on, I accidentally used the email, and suddenly my test account had no posts, no friends, no nothing. It was just a test account, and that account started to get recommendations of real people I actually knew. And the reason for that was because somebody Zucking uploaded their Zucking contact list with my Zucking email, the new one that I just made. My mistake. This is why you need like plenty of emails for throwaway here. That's why think about Braxmail for that. So you just need incoming email. You don't need any. You don't need the actual outgoing. You just need to make sure that you have unique incoming emails so that you can protect yourself in these kinds of situations. So what I should have done on Facebook was whatever email I used should have not been used in any other circumstance if you're going to test Facebook. So, but I made a mistake and I used it, and lo and behold, in no time flat, I mean, they've already captured information and likely connected it to Zucking phone numbers. Phone numbers. So the database of contacts is phone numbers and email, and Facebook is very good at that. The other thing that Facebook does is collect MAC addresses. I mean, this is Zucking company. It's just so corrupt. I can't even tell you. They do MAC address tracking. So everywhere you are, if there are Facebook users near you and you have any contact with them, and they can recognize you as a contact in some way, either you have a Facebook account or it's one of those capture pieces of data, then they actually spot your MAC address in a foreign environment outside of your home, like if you're at Walmart, and somebody who at Facebook is going to scan the network and look for any MAC addresses and see if they recognize the MAC address, and that will be used to see if anybody has proximity context. Now, some of you say, oh, this guy is such a conspiracy theorist. I could be such a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, right. It's actually stated in the privacy policies. So it's actually there. So I don't have to make it up. That's a good thing about Facebook. Their lawyers make them say everything that they steal. So they actually state what they steal. Like, this is just some of them. So they steal your contact list so that even if you're a non-user, they know your email and your phone. So they have this giant directory actually of the world's phone numbers. They have more information in that probably than any intelligence agency. They probably know every phone number and every email that's ever been used on Facebook. Okay, so it's that's bad. And then it has location tracking. On top of that, every photo you upload, they take your location, and of course, when an app is running, they take your location and collect that. I mean, basically, any piece of data that they can get, they will get, and because the corrupt mind of Zuck says we don't deserve any privacy. So basically, we are dealing with a person here, Zuck, who believes that we have no right to privacy. So if you go to Zuckbook or any of the meta platforms, you're basically accepting the fact that there is no Zucking escape. I don't know how you escape. The moment you log in to Facebook, your email address will now be recorded. Now, anytime you use that email address, it will now be associated with your friends. So the moment you associate your friends, your new email is also associated. If you have an old email, that's already been associated. If you have a new phone number, that's now associated. If you had an old phone number, that is now associated. That has been associated. So it's basically saying that Facebook knows who everyone knows, and plus the fact that you have crowdsourced information. Everyone puts everything about you as a relative, as a friend, and then makes posts, and basically they can collect any information about you, and this is the opposite of privacy, the exact opposite. So if you join Instagram, Facebook, or Threads, you're basically saying, yeah, there's no, I have no interest in privacy. So these dumb zucks who said, oh, Threads has a new app, Threads, so I'm going to click on it because they're on Instagram. I mean, someone actually made a comment. I saw this on Twitter. Oh no, where did I see that? It was in some article in mainstream media. And somebody actually said, oh, Threads is so much better than Twitter. Threads is so much better than Twitter because Threads knows about you and your interests. Threads knows about you and your interests, so therefore all the content is really related to what you like. I mean, that person saying, this is a good thing. Zuck is spying on me. Zuck is spying on me. This is wonderful. So let's use Threads because I want to be spied on. So basically, we have a situation here. You have a choice. As far as similar social media, you can say, oh, I'm going to use Twitter or I'm going to use Threads. But I'm telling you that if you use Threads, you are tied to a real identity because you can't join Threads without, basically you have to have a real identity tied to Instagram and everything else and your friends, and you're going to be crowdsourced. But yeah, Instagram doesn't require your real name, although it's required of Facebook. But your friends know who you are. They have Facebook accounts. You're all joined up together. It's all part of the same thing. So basically, it's not much of a choice for those of us with a mind towards privacy. It's a really bad choice to go into any meta platform because once you go in, you are pretty much sucked. The only response I can give you is to close your account and delete all content on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, especially Zucking Zuckbook. Okay, delete every piece of content because it will be identified with you. Now, in contrast, if you're on Twitter doesn't know who you are. They don't have a mechanism for actually finding out who you are exactly. There's no real mechanism for that unless you use the old verification method where you had to submit some Zucking ID. That this was during the time of the original Twitter 1.0. This was pre-Musk. Where you actually it's to give an ID, your driver's license, and anything to prove that you are who you are on Twitter. And I did not do that. And some of my friends did, like Ron Waxman. On Twitter, yeah, he had that check mark, and that means he had to give him his name, his address, his phone number, his driver's license. It's like, zuck that. I'm not gonna go do that. Nowadays, all you do is pay your $8 or $9 or whatever it is now. So yes, I pay my $8 and that's it. They didn't check anything. Yeah, they got my credit card, but mine is a corporate card, so I gave them a corporate credit card. So yeah, they don't. That's all they get. So I don't have any information on Twitter. They don't have my address. They don't have my real phone number. They don't have anything. And because of that, it makes you feel like you can say anything. I mean, you don't have to be afraid that somebody will attribute anything you say to a real person. It's still possible to do that, but it's not easy, right? So you want to make those steps very, very difficult, and that's safe to do on Twitter. It's as safe as you are here on YouTube without a real name. If you come here without a real name and you don't use your Gmail here actively, because if you do use your Gmail actively, then of course YouTube knows everything about you too based on your email since they read all that. They also know all your contacts here at Gmail because your Gmail contacts are collected by Google. So they know all of your contacts. So for me, I'm going to tell you how mine is set up. Mine is set up with a special account for YouTube. I have a unique account that I only use for YouTube. I don't use it for anything else. And my account on YouTube is two-factor authenticated as required by Google, but I don't put any data on it. There is no phone attached to that login. My phones are de-Googled, so I don't have to log into any other device, but they require me to log into a Google app. So I have an iPhone I do not use. It's in a Faraday bag. I log into that. That's only for emergencies. So I don't have to, so I have to actively protect myself against Google. But recently I turned on the passkey on on Chrome. So on Chrome, I can now run a passkey. So now all I have to do is use my fingerprint to log into Google. And in theory, I don't need two-factor authentication. Now, I happen to have extra phone numbers for two-factor authentication, so I'm keeping that. But at some point, once I learn how to that it's going to be safe, then I can delete the phone number associated with the YouTube account, and then we'll see what happens. I'm going to tell you what happens. But as of right now, the passkey is in use, and all I have to do is use my finger to log in, and I don't need to remember my password, and I don't need two-factor authentication. There is no need for two-factor authentication if you're using a passkey. So at least there's an option there. So passkeys are, if the apps start using passkeys, yes, use them because they're not an identity. They basically just save a key file locally, and that verifies that you were the original party, but they don't really know who that original party is. So anyway, that's how I deal with the non-safe nature of YouTube. It's very difficult to get around this because, like many of you probably have a gazillion Gmail accounts, and you have two keys. You mean physical keys? Yeah, you don't need any physical keys anymore. You just need the biometric, which I told you this kind of biometric is safe. It's not a problem. The what I would not trust is a cloud-based biometric. Not trustworthy. These are not the FIDO passkeys, which is what the passkeys are on Chrome. Is not a cloud-based biometric. It's a local device biometric, which is actually doesn't go anywhere. It stays on your device. Okay, so yeah, you can use passkeys. It's safe. FIDO passkeys. I'm talking about a specific thing. FIDO passkeys. That's safe. If knowing Zuck will invent some new thing and call it a passkey and say, "Oh, we have passkeys also for Meta," and then he'll screw you big time. So yeah, don't trust any. Better yet, just don't be on that platform. So as I recommend to you, do not go on the Meta platform. Do not be associated with anything on that platform, and life will be safer for you. That alone, that's like I would say 50% of the battle is right there. Facebook. 50% of your problems will be on Facebook. Any hacker that's trying to hack you, the first place they're going to look, by the way, is Facebook. And if you're not on Facebook, it's a little bit more difficult to get information about you. But if you're on Facebook, you're making it easier. So not recommended. So anyway, yes, use passkeys. They're now available on Chrome, and so it's being used. It's using Windows Hello in my case, using my Windows computer here, and soon it will be part of everything. Windows, Mac OS, everything will use passkeys, and then we can get rid of two-factor authentication using a phone. Okay, let me just take a break here for a moment and introduce you to my sponsor, and that happens to be Akamai Linode. So Linode name will be changing, and at some point it will be known as Akamai Linode or Akamai. It's part of the cloud computing services. So anyway, Linode's been around a long time, and in fact, it was one of the first cloud providers, even before AWS. So they've been around a long time. It's one of the oldest, and they were recently bought by Akamai. And I've been using, Linode myself for several years now, and they've been a sponsor of this channel for several years. And one of the reasons that I like having them as a sponsor, and I like using Linode products, is because, first of all, you save money. You can run servers for as cheap as $5 a month. And second, they have unbelievably good tech support. I mean, they're really on the ball. They have well-trained people, very good at Linux. And, usually you set up a Linux server like a WordPress or a website of some sort, or whatever you want to do on a server, you can do it on Linode for as little as $5 a month. So if you want to try it out, like say you're young and you're a student and you say, I want to, test my skills setting up servers, and you can set up servers on other places, but here you can use the code linode.com/RobBraxman, and they're going to give you a 2-month credit of $100 that you can use within that 2 months. That's a lot of resources you can use in 2 months if you set up $5 servers. All because it's hourly. The $5 is per month. So if you only use it for half the month, you only pay $2.50. So it's per hour. So it's $5 divided by 720 hours. That's how much you pay for the cheapest server. So it's not bad, and you can actually try it out for free for 2 months, and as long as you use the code Rob Braxman. So okay, so just a recommendation, and I'm happy to share that recommendation because it's a good company. Okay, let me resume comments here. They have very good tutorials on Linode YouTube channel. They do. They have their own tutorials right on the website. Yes. All tech people have Linode sponsors? No, not all tech people have Linode sponsors, but obviously the guy I talked to is looking for creators in the tech field, looking for influencers. But I happen to be a heavy Linode user as well. I'm not just, they're just not a sponsor. I actually use it a lot. So Neil is complaining about the sound. Yes, Don't worry about the sound. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm using the microphone on the computer, so that's kind of limiting here. Is the volume okay though? I'm sure it's kind of echoey because I don't have a normal mic that's near to my mouth. So yeah, I needed a special mic that I usually use, and because of the circumstances here, again, to remind people what the issue is if you just came in, I didn't have any power, so my home did not have power, and because I didn't have power, I had to set up a studio here for live streaming. This is not, I do my videos here, but I don't do any live streaming here. It's not set up for that. So I didn't have a microphone that I can use for a computer. So I'm just using the microphone that's on the computer. I was thinking about the video, and actually, brought the camera from my normal studio here to make sure that I don't have to deal with different equipment, because I have different cameras that I use here for the regular videos, and yeah, and unfortunately I didn't remember to take care of the microphone, because I need a special microphone. So power out in California, power out in my part of California, yes. So let me just tell you kind of a side comment here, Edward. computers, you know, you all know that there's a push to electrify everything. And some of you are environmentalists. Any environmentalists here? Okay. Now, I'm pretty moderate. I don't I couldn't consider myself an extremist in any sense. So I'm not an extremist of any kind. But I'm going to tell you that I do have a Tesla. I've said that many times before, and it's actually important for me to have the Tesla because I'm studying the AI part of that. And that's important for me to be up to date on the technology, or I won't be able to talk to you. So I can't just talk in theory. I actually have to use some of these products. I have a Tesla. Okay. And yeah, I have a Tesla. I've had a Tesla for a few years, and we'll continue to have a Tesla. I'm very happy with the Tesla. It's a really good car. So however, having said that, some people will make comments and say, "Why did you buy a Tesla? You know, all this electric stuff. This is not doesn't make any sense." And you know what? I have to agree with you. I have to agree with you. I have to agree with you on so many fronts. On so many fronts, people. First of all, I don't know if you know that the cost of electricity in California is so high. The cost of electricity in California is so high. Is the savings from using an electric car versus paying for uh, a supercharger is minuscule savings. Minuscule. So if you take a long trip out of town and you have to supercharge instead of putting gas in your car, you'd be lucky to save $50. You'd be lucky to save $50 because they compare the price of supercharger and the price of gas. Gas prices went down a little bit, still very expensive in California. With the expense of gas in California, so gas is what? I don't know. It's under $5 now, so it's four something here. I'm sure it's really cheap elsewhere, but here in California, the gas has been always been high. So gas here is, I don't know, somewhere close to 4.70, something like that. I don't know. I don't know what it is because how would I know? I haven't gotten gas in a while, but I can see the signs from a distance. So anyway, uh, the price of gas is pretty high, and yet even with that, the savings on my Tesla for using a supercharger is pretty minuscule. And here's the other thing. As you know, I have no power today. Now, I don't know if you know this, but in California, they're beginning to do things like ban the use of gas stoves. They want you to use electricity. So they want you to go induction, everything electric. So they want your heater to be electric. Your basically they don't want any gas in your natural gas in your home, so you can't use natural gas for cooking, and they don't want you to heat water with. They want you to use electricity. Electricity in California is extremely expensive. Now, why is it extremely expensive in California? Because they do not have enough supply. They don't have enough supply. So when there was a rolling blackout problem during the heat wave last year, what happened? They told us that we shouldn't charge our Teslas, that we should stop charging our Teslas during those times, certain times, so that we don't contribute to the blackout. It's crazy. Now, what's the connection? I don't know. I use a Tesla because I like it as a car. But as far as the justification for switching everything to electricity, I'm going to tell you that I don't know what's the game here. Why are we being forced into less options, even though the option that we're being forced to is actually more expensive? Electricity is more expensive. So why are we being forced into this? And there's a bit of control here. There's a bit of element of control here, because if your power comes from one source, okay, if your power comes from a single source for everything, somebody's in control. Somebody can shut you down. Can you imagine that? They shut down the power, nobody can drive. So that's it's kind of a scary thought. And as much as I have an electric car, it bothers me, because I see, just like I see data being centralized, now I see even the power supply being centralized, and it bothers me because I see consequence to that. This is not an environmental comment; it's just the truth. Instead of letting market forces decide, what we're going to use, the government is saying, okay, no, in California, no more gas cars by 2035, and no more gas stoves and whatever. We're all going to use electricity, but yet they can't guarantee that the sucking electricity is going to be available. It's going to be controlled by the state. And so they control you. So that really bothers me. I don't have an answer for you, because it's all, that's why I push for more flexibility here. If you don't like electric cars, you should not have to get an electric car. I have one. I don't force it on anyone. But I'm going to tell you, I'm on a boat right now. This is a boat. Okay. This boat has solar power, water maker. I got everything here. I got, this is a self-sufficient craft. If I don't have diesel, it's a sailboat, so I can move. I can go get around as long as I have airflow. That's it. So if there's sun, I have solar. I have enough solar here to power the refrigeration, the inverters. I can use computers. Yeah. So I got all that. If I do have a Starlink. If I move the Starlink on here, then this will be a self-contained craft, and I don't need electricity from an outside source. So, yeah. Rob is describing problems in Southern California, not statewide. No, of course the problem is statewide, because Oakland was the city that was blocking gas stoves, and the fires in Northern California caused electricity blackouts to occur. And if you had an electric car, then you would have been sucked. So no, it's the state. The state is saying that you have to decide now that you're going to use we the state decide you're going to use. You're going to use electricity, but the infrastructure isn't ready for electricity. That's the problem. So I use it because it's fun for me. I like it, but it kind of bothers me to see that if 100% of the people here were on electric, we're going to have some serious problems. Cars use up a lot of power, and the few Teslas that were here was enough to say, the state, not Southern California, the state said, if you're charging a Tesla, you should not charge it at certain hours. This was last year, due to the blackouts. So infrastructure is not ready, and we're being forced into this, and it really concerns me, because it's just like consolidating data. It's like, instead of data, you're consolidating power, electric power. So anyway, that's my concern here, and it's kind of connected. It's kind of connected. And some of you don't like what I'm talking about, because you may be environmentalists, and I that is not really what I'm talking about here. So yeah, it's. I'm just saying it's a reality. You're focused on. I know some of you will unsubscribe, but yeah, it is what it is. I have a Tesla. I already tell you that. So okay, so so uh, will you start using an electric keyboard? I have an electric keyboard. Hold on, and like I said, I can use it here in this boat. I have an inverter. I have solar panels. By the way, you cannot put a solar panel on a Tesla. I don't know if you understand that a Tesla uses 100 kilowatts, 100 kilowatt hours. A solar panel generates what, 400 watts? It's going to take you what, a couple of weeks to charge a car? Yeah, yeah, it's going to take you a couple of weeks to charge your car, if at all. So not realistic. So yeah, you charge your car and then and the other times you got to park it. So yeah, so just telling you that I love electric cars because I have one. Uh, I just don't understand the mad push into this when you're not ready. Why don't you get ready first, or ready at the same time before you start pushing? I mean, the market decided. I made a decision from a market point of view to buy a car, and so I bought a Tesla. That's a market decision. Wasn't pushed on me by anyone. I've been looking at it for a long time. So and also being a technology guy, I'm here to find out how the technology works. So yeah, but it's being pushed. It's being aggressively pushed in an environment that's not ready. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so I'm sure somebody's feelings are going to get hurt for even a minor thing like this, but it is what it is. I just needed to say it. Okay, don't tell me about bicycles, Great Goal. I'm going to get into another rant. Yeah, don't talk about bicycles. I'm going to get into another rant. I already told you about the bicycle lane rant. Okay, um, so yeah. So anybody still on Facebook? If you, if you're still on Facebook, like my sister. Oh my gosh, my sister. So hard. She's starting to say, "Well, I don't use Facebook anymore. I use Instagram." It's like, fuck, what's the difference? Instagram, Facebook, it's the same thing. I don't use because she's heard it from me for so long. A decade of me telling her that Zuckbook sucks, and she said, "Okay, I'll go to Instagram then." 10 days to charge a Tesla with a solar panel. There you go. That's roughly what I thought. So, Joe, I'm going to cry. So Joe Michael's going to cry. So, yeah, I want to put more solar panels in here. If I want to be environmentally conscious, I have this. This is my, bug out uh, location. This is self-sustaining with a water maker, for goodness sake. I don't even use water. I don't use external water. All the water in this boat is taken from the ocean. I don't take, there was a drought, and because there was a drought, there was a ban on washing our boats. We can only wash our boats so often. So there was a ban on washing boats because of the drought. The drought's finished now, but still the rule is still in effect. And of course I don't have to worry about that because I make water. I make water. So yeah, so I can make water daily, and so I mean, completely self-sustaining here. The power for the water maker comes from solar. So my solar power is enough to power the refrigerator, is enough to power the water maker. My water maker is a low draw on electricity, and then I have a inverter, then I can use it for running my computer. So if I'm off grid, uh, when I take the boat off grid, I'm good. How many watts does the desalination equipment pull? Uh, I think it's 5 amps when it's running. 5 amps when it runs, which is about the same as a refrigerator, except a water maker doesn't run that often. I'm running it maybe if you, let's say you're out somewhere, you know, in an off-grid location, you can run it like an hour a day, and that should give you. It makes like 9 gallons an hour. So yeah, so if you run it an hour a day for 5 amps, that's just 5 amps. Uh, the solar power generates at least 5 amps per hour, at least. I have air conditioning, yes, but the air conditioning is not self-sustaining. It does require dock power. Yeah, so air conditioning requires electricity. I don't have a battery operated or solar operated air conditioning. That's asking too much. Your boat has USB-C ports. Yeah, of course it has. It has an inverter. I have every kind of connection. I have AC. I have no, I don't have. Yeah, so I have AC power. I have DC power. I have USB. All of that, of course. What is the water? What is the water source? The water source is the ocean. What is this yellow water? The water source is the ocean. So yeah, so it pulls from the ocean, and it desalinates it, and I can desalinate in 1 hour of use 9 gallons per hour. There's some that can make 20 gallons, 30 gallons an hour, uses up a lot of power. Mine does not. Mine is low draw. It doesn't produce as much water as the rest of them, but because it doesn't use that much power, it's great for. So if you run it for a couple hours a day, you can make 20 gallons a day, roughly 18 gallons. So that's good. Are you using a portable gas generator? No, I am not using any generator, but all I have to do is run my engine, but it will use diesel. So if I did not have solar, then I have to run my engine, and then the engine will use diesel. So normally I don't have to even do that. Yeah, so I don't have to do that. So solar, my solar generates enough wattage that it can handle the typical stuff that I have to do. Must feel really good to be so off the grid. Yeah, it's kind of nice to know that you know there's some sort of protection for any kind of emergency, and the boat is self-sustained and has radio. I even have ham radio in here, so it's complete. If I'm on the dock, I can run the air conditioning or the heater, whichever. But if I'm on the dock, I can run that. Otherwise, if I'm not on the dock, I have to open the windows. What maintenance is needed for desalination? You have to change the filters regularly, and then every few years you have to change the actual the element. What do you call that? I forget the name, but the tube where it actually does the osmosis. The osmosis tube has to be replaced. That's fairly expensive, so that's done. You know, several years. So it lasts a long time. I've had mine for only a year. So yeah, it'll be several years before I need to do that. how do you use the iPhone? What do you do with it, and what do you not do with it? I do not use the iPhone. The iPhone is in a Faraday bag. I had the iPhone from before. I had an iPhone 10, and that was the last iPhone I bought, and I stopped using that, uh, especially when all the new stuff happened with, client-side scanning, and then Apple decided that it's gonna make your phone an AirTag so that it identifies your location even when off. So when it's not being used, it's in a Faraday bag. So the only reason that I needed the iPhone uh, usable was because Google required that I have some normie phone in order to have a YouTube account. So I use that as a account recovery. So unless I'm doing account recovery, I don't need it. So it's just sitting in a Faraday bag. So with passkeys, I don't need account recovery anymore in theory. So I may not need that iPhone anymore. So maybe it'll stay in the Faraday bag permanently. So yes, I have a Faraday bag specifically just for the iPhone. I mean, goodness, the fact that I have to do that. So the technology for doing the Apple Mesh Network actually came with the iPhone 10. So that was that technology. So with the iPhone 10, that was when things just went downhill. So that's when I stopped doing that. Elon's going to use his go-to submission hold called the Walrus on Zuck. Okay, I don't know what that is. Yeah, no Brax 3 yet. So I don't have any more international Brax 2s. If you want a US Brax 2, I have them. Will they work internationally? They probably will. But they're not the international version. So one of the frequencies is different. The difference is band 3. So band 3 on the US version is band 4. Otherwise, it's the same. Do not use Avast do not use Avast ever. Do not. Do not use any other antivirus. Do not use Avast. Oh, please. Too many videos on that. If you want to be spied on, yes, use Avast. Do not even think about using Avast. Do not. Okay? I mean, I made specific demos showing the fact that Avast can intercept all of your HTTPS traffic and basically remove the encryption if you use Avast. Is there a kid with me? No, I don't see anybody here. I am on a boat alone. So do not use Avast, please, people. In fact, do not use any antivirus. You can use Windows Defender if you already have Windows, since it's already built in. So, but otherwise, do not use it. I forget about BlackBerry. The time for BlackBerry is gone. Get a Brax 2 phone. Yeah, the thing, guys, is that Avast installs a man in the middle. Avast is, I've tested that. I mean, you can see it. You can use my app, MITM, my MITM app, and you can see it. It actually proves that there is an MITM when you run Avast. So if you're going to run Avast, you're saying that there's an MITM or man in the middle in there, and that you're okay with that. So I'm not okay with having a man in the middle. So no Avast for me. How many ways can the bad guys get your IP address? How many ways can the bad guys get your IP address? If you protect your IP address, then it's not that important. It's not that a bad guy can get your IP address. It's when somebody big gets your IP address, and they can find you. I mean, a single attacker having an IP address is not all that meaningful. It's when somebody collects it. Let me explain this. So, yes, Linux is very safe. It's the only safe thing around. Let me explain this a little bit carefully. IP addresses are your identity to your basically your location, your house. And people have thought that, does the IP address really reveal my location? So they go take their IP address and then they go to what's my IP or some website like that, and they plug it in and they say, my IP address shows that the location is 5, 10 miles away, sometimes 30 miles away, sometimes 50 miles away. And he says, see, it's safe. This guy, Rob Braxman, he's full of shit because he's telling me that I need to be afraid of my sucking IP address. And here I have proof that it doesn't really reveal anything. So that's the idiot that you want to be careful of, because that's an idiotic answer. That's somebody who doesn't know anything. Okay? Because you cannot find the actual exact location of an IP address from from an open website like that. That's not how it works. How it works is this, guys. Your friend comes and visits you in your house, and you're very concerned about your privacy, but he's not. He goes into your house and says, "Can I borrow your Wi-Fi?" And then says, "Sure, here's the password." Then 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 can I borrow your password? And can I borrow your Wi-Fi? And then uses the Wi-Fi and puts in and then starts using some apps. And what happens is they use many apps, and let's say they use a well-known one, which is the Weather Channel. Weather Channel is owned by IBM, and the Weather Channel runs in the background even, and then collects the IP address and collects the location because it needs your location to give you weather, right? So it's going to force you, please give us access to location so we can give you the weather. So then the app, the Weather Channel, now knows your IP address and your location. And guess how the Weather Channel app is free, by the way, and yet IBM buys it. Why does IBM buy the Weather Channel app? It's free. How do they make money? Well, they make money, folks, because they sell that combination of IP address and location together with other identifiers that you may have on the device, like your Google ID, Apple ID, or whatever else they can get. Okay, so they sell that, and you say that's not true. Okay, well, because you're not educated about it, if you say that, of course it's true because it's sold to here.com, Skyhook Wireless. Skyhook Wireless was the first one, and they've been accumulating all this kind of data for years and years, starting since 2007. And then Apple bought a company that was doing that, and then Google, started doing that. And so anyway, the data collected is now in what is called a reverse IP lookup database. So you're saying, well, why don't I get to find out what my actual location is based on the IP address, that reverse IP lookup? Because you have to pay for that. They actually sell that service, so you can buy it. You can rent it for, depending on who it is, you can rent it for $500 a year, which a corporation obviously is not going to worry about spending $500 a year on access to IP addresses and knowing your location. Okay, so the banks say, "Oh yeah, for $500, yeah." In fact, go to Skyhook Wireless, and they have a guarantee on the location. What do they call it? They have a name like a verified location, or they ensure that the location is accurate, which is very useful for a bank, for example. So that's how that works, folks. Your IP address being purchased, being used as a commodity and sold to these companies to harvest them is important. So now here comes Facebook. Facebook knows your IP address. They also know your phone number, and they can then know your exact location, uh, even though they already know it from your photos. They can even cross-verify that because they can go to those reverse IP lookup databases and extract that information and combine it with their information, which I'm sure they'll happily pay $500 for. Okay, so there you go. So the Weather Channel is one. There are thousands of apps that do this. Thousands. Okay, the Weather Channel is the most obvious one because they actually were uh, discovered and put on the press. It was actually in the LA Times. There was an article on the LA Times specifically about the Weather Channel doing this thing. Something I've already known, but now here somebody actually researched the actual a specific company, and this is one. But I am sure many apps do this. Any app that requires location, like Yelp, Craigslist, stuff like that, apps that require location uh, should give you some sort of pause, because why are they requiring location? They may be requiring location because they want some extra revenue by selling your sucking location. Okay, so there you go. So that's why that is. Now that's the IP address. So somebody actually asked me this question. We have a little bit more time here. Somebody asked me this question. So I listened to you, and I use a VPN to hide my IP address. So what's that going to do? Because if I have a VPN, what's that going to do? And if you don't really think this through, you're not going to understand this. So what does a VPN do? A VPN does only one thing. It's very simple. Like, it does two things. But the main thing it does with the IP address is it hides the IP address. You're basically hiding your standard IP address. Instead, they're seeing the opposite end of your connection is seeing the IP address of the VPN, which has many people on it. So at any one moment, many people are using a VPN with the same IP address and doing different things. So it's impossible to actually ascertain what anyone is actually doing uh, just from the IP address, because there's many people on there coming from different locations. You don't know which one is which. You don't know who's coming in, who's doing what. It's not going to be obvious just from looking at the traffic on the VPN side. The second thing the VPN does is encrypt that traffic between the client computer and the VPN server. Okay, so that may or may not be important. Uh, the, the reason it may be important is because it hides that you went to google.com. If you're in a VPN, somebody intercepting the traffic will know you're going to some server, but doesn't know you're going to google.com, so because of that encryption. However, past the VPN encryption is over, and if somebody intercepts from there, they see that somebody is going to google.com from the VPN. They don't know who it is. Okay, so what does that have to do with location? Well, nothing. I told you that location is actually a separate item. So your device leaks location. So if your device is leaking location, that can be captured by any app that tracks location. That can be captured by Google, which does not need any app because it's capturing location 24/7. That's captured by Apple 24/7 because they don't need an app to capture location. So location is always being tracked. What is unique is that if your IP address is matched to location, anyone and their children and their children's children can find out your location from the IP address using reverse IP lookup. So no, location tracking doesn't stop with a VPN, but it stops the reverse IP lookup database from collecting your data. Okay, so that's really the important thing. A reverse IP lookup database cannot work with a VPN. So if you do not want to be in a reverse IP lookup database, if you're using a VPN, you are not going to have that issue. I don't have that issue. I actually checked my IP address against some of these databases, um, like Skyhook Wireless, and my IP address is not on there, even though my IP address has not changed in 20 plus years. I still have the same IP address for 20 plus years. So if anyone attempts to spot it, they could have spotted it a long time ago. And because I take precautions, nobody uses any app with the because I have a VPN router and that protects the IP address. So no one actually should have my IP address in that context. And when my sister comes to my house, she has to use a VPN router, or she can use her own cell data and not use my network. Most of the time, they use their own network now. So, so anyway, um, so that's why a VPN helps with location tracking. A VPN in itself is not going to stop the location from leaking, but it stops making the connection between the location and the IP address. It cannot stop the connection between your Google ID and location, because even if you're using a VPN and you're logged in with your Google ID, then obviously the Google ID and the location will be tracked as a pair. So you got to think about all this at the same time. Solution: get a Brax2 phone, a Google phone. Why is that? Because the Google phones do not have a Google ID. So therefore, locations don't matter. Besides, a Google phone does not have a reporting of locations to Google. So the Google phone, especially like a Brax2, is pretty awesome device, incredibly awesome device, because you stop worrying about somebody taking your privacy and collecting your data, because it's not going to happen. You can. Somebody keeps asking me, how do you use a Google phone? Is there something I got to do special using a Google phone? No, that's the nice thing. You don't have to do anything, because all you have to do is use it, and you will find that it doesn't collect your data. That's all you need to know. It doesn't collect data. So you use it freely. If you're I guess the comparison is, if you're using a Google phone or an iPhone, you're being sucked every single moment. Your location's being reported to Google and Apple continuously. Your Apple ID is matched to that location. Your Google ID is matched to that location. That is awful. That's an awful situation there. And if you want that, keep using your Google. I mean, only a few of you have a Google phone. I'm going to guess only 2% of my audience has an actual Google phone. The rest of you are still on the standard phone. You watch this, but you haven't made up your mind. And I don't understand that. I really don't, because the obvious privacy advantage is so big. I mean, suddenly you disappear. There's no location tracking. There's no Google ID. They can't even match what you do on the computer. They can't even track your browsing. They can't do anything. Neil, why do we want to talk about a BlackBerry 10 phone that's not supported in the U.S.? You have a BlackBerry phone that can work in the U.S.? So it's not even worth talking about, since it's a 3G phone. It's not gonna. BlackBerry 10, maybe that's has LTE, but it has no VoLTE. That doesn't have voice over LTE, so it's not going to work in the U.S. So yeah, so no use discussing a model that no one else can get or get it to work. So yeah. Now somebody was asking a question about contacts. Let me. Rob, location matters when a 6-year-old man has a crush on you and knows what bicycle you ride home in college. It's worse than that. Worse than that's the least of your problems. Least of your problems here. Somebody was asking about contacts. Please tell us about rental car saving your contacts and nav when you plug into your phone. Please talk about rental car saving your contacts and nav when you plug in your phone. Uh, yeah, what do they do with it though? Uh, I I don't necessarily think that's a concern. The issue is a central authority that combines all contact lists, which is what Facebook and Google does. So the entity has to be collecting it and combining it for the world. So the only players that are big on this would be big tech, some big tech, all the big tech, from Microsoft to Google to Facebook, Apple, uh, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is now Microsoft. They would have the ability to say who is connected to whom based on contact lists. But a smaller player that's not in the tech business, like a rental car company, yeah, it's like saying, you're giving your contact list to a small operator like, you know, um, Gab.ai. Okay, so that would be considered small. What exactly is Gab AI going to do about it? They're not big enough to benefit from it. Okay, to benefit from it, you have to have global control, and so big tech. If you're not big tech, it's not an issue. So MAC addresses are not a threat on the internet directly; they're an indirect threat. MAC addresses don't go over the internet, so if you think that your MAC address is being spread to everyone on the other side, just like an IP address. No, it's not doing that. It requires an app that has access to MAC address. Which apps harvest MAC addresses? Zucking Zuckbook. Now, Zucking Zuckbook has been denied access to MAC addresses on Android since Android 9, I believe, or is it 10? I can't remember. I think 9. So Zucking Zuckbook has been losing out on that, so they're having to use a different value, like the advertising ID. But before they were using MAC addresses. So what they do is they connect to the local area network and they look for MAC addresses of any device on the network and they record that. And then if you have a Facebook account elsewhere, they can recognize if the device is in the same area. So that's a very, very evil use of the MAC address, and it requires an app to actually seek it and store it separately in their database, which is what Facebook does. It is not accessible in general to just about anything. It is accessible on a PC. So if you're running some sort of Facebook app or any kind of executable on a PC, the MAC address is accessible on a PC. It is not accessible on Android. So what about notes and other stuff over relays? Haven't used that. I don't think it's that complicated. You don't need to. Let me tell you, I'm running out of time here, so let me just summarize this. Let me just summarize this answer for you, because it's kind of a general answer. The general answer is it doesn't matter what data you put on the internet. It doesn't matter. What matters is the identity of the data that you associate with it on the internet. So if you went to the internet and typed on Twitter, down with America, like back in Iran back in the day, down America, down America, there you see the big crowds saying that. If you put that on the internet and it's not associated with any name, then what does that mean? They can't collect it, they can't attack you, they don't know who it is. Jacob Bytes VPN already uses Pi-hole, so you don't need to do anything. Bytes VPN is already equipped to use Pi-hole. So anyway, if you don't need to do anything special, you can use Twitter. You can use, you can't use anything from Zuckbook, but let's just, theorize here what you could use. Could you use TikTok? Yeah, you could probably even use TikTok selectively, because TikTok will steal your contacts. TikTok is another example of a contact stealer. So be careful with that. But if you don't share contacts with TikTok, you got to be careful though, because it keeps popping. Then you accidentally click on it, and you might upload your contacts accidentally. So if you do not identify yourself, any platform could potentially be okay. The only ones that are not okay are the ones that force an identity. And who are those that force identity? Well, all of Meta does. Anything that forces a 2FA and not allow you to hide your real name and phone number, which Google sometimes does, but not always. So it depends. But there's a way to evade it now with passkeys. So anything that forces you to put a phone number is questionable. But if you go to, I hate to push anything from me, because I have too many detractors. But let's say you go to BraxMe. So BraxMe doesn't require anything. You sign into BraxMe, you make your own username, you set up a password, done. It doesn't ask you for email, doesn't ask you to identify yourself, it doesn't ask for anything. Now, you do need to provide it with an email if you want account recovery, but if you don't need account recovery, or if you want to use a authenticator app, you can do so and not have any account recovery by email. So email is always optional, and you're set. You're good to go. There's no way to identify you. BraxMe, for example, does not record IP addresses, so we don't really know by IP address who's who. So, it's actually embedded in the servers that we do not collect. If you look at the logs, there's no IP addresses on the logs. So, because of that, BraxMe is an example of an app that really concerns itself with identity. So, two people can be talking on BraxMe and could be talking about anything. Let's hope it's all legal, but let's say you're talking about legal kind of topics. Nobody's ever going to know. First of all, it's encrypted, so you have to make it super obvious that there's something that should be looked at. But otherwise, it's encrypted, and no one's going to know anything. And two random people talking with no identification mean nothing. So that's one of the values of certain platforms that allow anonymity, and one of those platforms happens to be Twitter. I have never given my identity on Twitter. So because of that, then Twitter falls into this category of, if two random people were talking on Twitter and nobody knows who they are, I mean, I don't care if you're talking DMs and in the DMs you're assuming, of course, Elon Musk can read your DM, but as long as you know that, who cares if nobody knows who you are? So that's what I'm trying to tell you, is that it's not just your data, it's identities. You don't have to search long and hard for any safe platforms. The only certain platform that you need to avoid is anything from Meta. All of it, including the new Zucking threads. You have to not ever go into the domain of Zuck, or you will be Zucked by Zuck. Okay? You will be Zucked by Zuck. Do not go into anything Meta. If you avoid anything Meta, you have a good chance of, Meta requires a real identity. That's why it's so unique. It's one of the few platforms that require you to have a real identity. The only other things that require real identities are banks and, and government websites. So in a bank, it's your money, so you better better identify yourself, or you're not going to have access to your money. Okay. What about visiting threads? It doesn't matter. You visit threads and you associate your account. Remember that threads will require your email and then they'll start validating you as a real entity, and they'll say, "We'll lock you out because you don't do 2FA." There's just no escape. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. So, yeah. So why even try? I wouldn't even, you know, I'd rather go to TikTok than go to anything Meta. Okay, I mean that's saying a lot because TikTok itself has its own issues, but in comparison, it's night and day between TikTok and Meta. I mean, Meta is really bad, really bad. So I heard Threads will be connected to the metaverse. I don't know, Northern Chimp, as long as you're not on Threads. You mean if Threads takes data from Mastodon, okay, your identity is not on Threads. Just don't log into Threads itself. New Samsung, you're zucked, pretty much. Nothing I can do for you. I don't need a pharmacy AF 1892. No need for that, but I do have allergies. Uh, ID.me, government backed. Well, it's obviously there's a demand for that for certain types of things when they want KYC. So yeah, I think it's used for, like, let's say you want to do financial transactions, like say on Coinbase, crypto transactions, and they want to identify you, then they're going to identify you by some means, and that's certainly one of the means. Is that a good thing? I don't like it, but it is what it is. It's not. There are things that there are things that require it, and by law, and I can't stop them. What about these apps studying users' faces? Well, they're already. Do you need an app to study user faces? The AI has already done that. The AI has already done that. So anyway, just to summarize, Elon Musk has his faults, and he's going to screw up with Twitter here and there. But at least he's honestly correcting himself. If he oversteps, he said, "Okay, I made a mistake. I'm going to change it." It's kind of like a little boy running this big giant app. So yeah, I mean, in a way, I appreciate the honesty, or the he's very open about what he's doing, and I do appreciate that, even though you may not agree with some of his moves, but you know compared to everything else, it probably, as far as a pseudo anonymous platform, if I were to recommend to somebody who wants to go social but doesn't want to go into a place that they have to identify themselves, then Twitter is actually the place to be. You can enjoy yourself debating on Twitter without having to worry about identity. And Twitter and Threads may merge. Hell no. There's zero chance of that. Absolutely zero. I mean, we're talking about Musk and Zuckerberg here. No way. So, yeah. Have you had issues with the battery swelling in your phone? Happened to 3 Samsungs I own. Uh, Not in a phone I've owned. Obviously, it has happened. So, yeah, it does happen. Forget the, I think I think it can happen to any phone. I don't know actually what triggers it to expand, some sort of overheating maybe, but don't know. Anyway, I'm running out of time, so my friends, I'm going to say good night, and hopefully you're having a good summer, and you're out there only watching my stuff in the evenings and going out there and appreciating the summer. And I go sailing all the time. I play out there playing music. Go watch my Rob Braxton Jazz channel. I haven't posted anything in the sailing channel because I haven't really sailed that many times, and nothing unique has been happening yet. So anyway, thank you for watching, guys, and appreciate you being here. in spite of the bad audio, we'll be back hopefully with the normal studio for the normal live stream next week, where I have better